Hey, welcome, and I hope you can hear me. If it is too noisy because I have no feedback here, tell me. Thanks for joining. Welcome, buongiorno, herzlich willkommen. Buongiorno, this is my Italian. Sorry, I cannot speak more. Let me introduce myself. My name is Mathias. I'm working for Neogen. I have a background in food technology. Also as a quality manager for some years, and in 2010 I started to work in the food safety business as a professional service manager. This means I'm doing technical support for all our products, helping customers in case they have any questions. But I'm also engaged in automation, in driving efficiency, in EMP, so environmental monitoring processes. So this is a part of educational part that I'm also doing. To talk a little bit about our portfolio, this is a broad portfolio all over to address all kinds of food safety issues. So starting with Petrifilm, you may have heard this. It's a product about 40 years old. I still call it an innovative product because it has quite some innovation inside, and we still produce new plates, new versions, new applications. We are working on automation. You will see a little bit more about this today. Then we have the Solaris system as an automated or kindly automated system for microbiology for qualitative or semi-quantitative results. We produce culture media. We are very engaged in sample collection, which some people say is a very easy product, but it's not, because here everything starts, and every mistake you make when you collect a sample will result in a bad test result, maybe in a good one, but a wrong one. So people are happy to not find any bacteria, but they may have died on the way to the laboratory. Hygiene monitoring is a way to assess cleanliness in a site. Allergen testing, very important thing for EMP. Natural toxin testing. UHT, ESL testing for commercial sterility is very important for dairy companies, beverage companies. Then we have a very innovative pathogen system working with the isothermal amplification, which is molecular, but it is a very robust system, so we don't know any inhibitions even for very, very complex matrices. Nutritional analysis, so enzymatic analysis, enzymatic activity is something we offer. You still see genomics, but if you're following the press releases, you may know that this is for sale. So it's a part of the business, but it is not the part that is directly going into the food safety direction. So that's why we will spin off this one. And then you see at the last window something called data analytics, and I will talk about this more in the presentation because this is a part that really drives efficiency in laboratories. Who of you is working in a laboratory or worked in a laboratory? Have you ever heard the question, can you be more efficient? Can you drive efficiency in your lab? Have you ever heard this? I'm sure you did. I remember when I was quality manager, most of my job was fighting for resources, so keeping resources, but on the other hand, always looking how can we do things more efficient, how can we save time, do more, increase capacities, all this kind of thing. This is daily work. In the last years, that changed a lot and it became much more critical. So we only need to think about 2020 when the pandemic was. It was a big issue in the laboratories. They didn't want to have so many people in a small room. So some labs went for shift systems, they reduced staff. Some labs almost closed during that time. So there was a big need to think about how can we do our job with less people, or maybe in a different way with reorganizing the lab, do another workflow to keep people a little bit away from each other, to decrease the contamination issue. Pandemic increased a lot the pressure on labs by getting staff. So lots of laboratories reduced the staff. After the pandemic, they had big issues to get staff back again, experienced staff. In a micro lab, you cannot take everybody to do the job. So you need to look, how do we keep our knowledge? How can we do the same work in the same quality? Sustainability is becoming more and more important. 10 years ago, people said a micro lab, quality lab, we don't need to think about sustainability. Today, companies say every part of the company needs to have sustainability goals and needs to show how we can increase sustainability. Regulatory requirements, customer requirements, something not so easy to influence, but you can address it. Waste management, something people don't think when they think about a microlab, but people who work in a microlab know this. So waste management is also very important because it's a big cost factor. So personnel, I talked about it. How can we keep the skills? How can we keep the people, keep the knowledge so that we really do the work we should done? Microbiology in food is not counting. It's interpretation. So much more knowledge is needed. So what can we do if people go to other companies? If they leave the company, find another opportunity, how can we get people back into the microlab? And this is one of the biggest issues. I'm working for automation as well. And 5 years ago, people said, or 6 years ago, before the pandemic, people said automation is nice, but maybe in 10 years. That's changed dramatically. So today people and many customers ask, when can we get it? Do you have something available? And here you see on the fair, you see one option from Copan, a robot doing micro work. This is something that will increase much more in the future. I see it as a kind of megatrend coming. Regulatory requirements, customer requirements. You may know if you work in a laboratory, especially in a contract lab, customers tell you, I need an ISO version. I need an ISO method. So the lab cannot decide what method to use. They have to stick to the ISO method because it's a customer requirement. Sometimes you see requirements from other countries. So if you want to export to the US, you need to follow AOC methods. And I'm covering iEMEA, which means Europe, Middle East, Africa. Main part is ISO. But in Middle East, Africa, lots of customers look into AOAC. And more customers do this because they want to export to the US. So there's a slight difference. They try to harmonize these things, ISO and AOAC, but there's still a long way to go. 11333, the ISO method, talking about quality control for microbiological methods. In the past, it was something for manufacturers. Today, every lab needs to look into this one. And the audit pressure will also increase here. So there are lots of requirements on a lab that we need to consider. I talked about methods. Customers expect a method. Can I do the method? Can my lab perform this method? Can I work with this method? So you know the process of verification. You need to assure people are trained on it and are comfortable using it. I don't want to go into all these details. I would more like to go in a kind of case scenario that we see, or I saw many times, and where we can support. Lab process, I talked a little bit about this one. Reorganization, you saw a lot during the pandemic, that people completely reorganized their lab flow. It's great. It makes sense in many cases. It depends how many people you have, how many samples you have. But you always need to protect the integrity of the test, and you need to assure that the validation is not affected by changing the workflow, which can happen. Sustainability is money. Sustainability is not only environment, it's direct money. So if you are sustainable, you save a lot of money. Carbon footprint, energy cost, waste, again. Lots of customers do autoclaving the samples at the end. If you have to pay for a waste bin for a company to pick it up as a kind of biohazard product, you know the costs are much higher. Space saving, capacity constraints, all these are efficiency targets, because if you address them, you will increase your efficiency. Let's look into a traditional process. So traditional microbiology, you start with the media preparation. You start with autoclaving the media so it's ready to use. Maybe you need to warm it up, typical agar process. Then you start with the sample preparation in parallel, homogenization, dilution, typical steps. And then you bring both together. The media, the sample with the inoculation process, you combine it, you need to do the incubation process, interpretation and counting, and at the end you need to do some paperwork with the documentation. And after that, you see the big bags in a laboratory waiting for autoclaving or the biohazard boxes to be picked up. If you come to our booth, or if you already know Petrifilm, there may be a way to overcome some of these things. So by using a ready-to-use media, you avoid the step of the media preparation. This is something that is already done. Sample preparation is pretty much the same. You do the inoculation, you do the incubation by using a much smaller media. You save a lot of space in the incubator, you need much smaller incubators. Interpretation is very similar, documentation is similar, and then you see a significant reduction in waste. We talk about more than 10% or less than 10% waste compared to agar methods. So here we do a tremendous step to increase the efficiency. The lab process is still the same, but you save all the time needed for the media preparation. And coming back to the ISO standard, by using this kind of media, you don't need to do the full QC process for the media, because that was done by the manufacturer already. So only very limited approach here. Let's do a next step. Looking into this media that you buy ready to use, you save a lot of space, energy, water, carbon footprint. This is all decreased. So you don't need to worry about this one. If a lab has a sustainability target, just by changing the method, you can go to your management and say, hey, we did a big job here. By the way, you also increase the efficiency of the staff by 80%, because these people don't need to prepare any media anymore. That is a big part of the lab work. We are driving innovation, and we are working always on how can we make the products more efficient. And on top you see a product that's called the reader, the Petrifilm reader. This helps you doing the interpretation of the plates. So you can add a plate, and within 4 seconds it will be counted and you get the result. The result does not need to be put on paper after that, because it's already there and you can put it into your LIMS system with the LIMS interface. So you reduce the time for the documentation. On the button you see what we call the feeder, and this is what it's doing. This feeder is feeding the reader with plates. So you can add a stack of 400 plates, push a button and walk away. The feeder is continuously pushing the plates into the reader, and then after some time you get a message, I'm ready, and you have the results in your documentation system. You do a quick review, push a button, and the results are documented. So by doing this, you reduce a lot of work in the interpretation and documentation step. So we are coming closer to automation here, because now things are moving and people can do more valuable tasks. I was working with a consultant and she said to me, Matthias, this is free up the brains. So automation, some people are afraid we are losing FTEs, we are losing people. I did several automation projects and never ever there was a reduction in people. It was all about keeping the people, keeping the capacity or increasing the capacity and get the people to do more valuable work instead of dilution and counting. So the next step is, and here we are leaving a little bit Neogen, but we have partners who are doing this, is full automation. So here we talk about how can we make the process of dilution, inoculation and labeling more efficient. And here we have friends like these machines or something like you see with Copan for agar plates. This machine is for petrifilm. This machine is doing the whole process. So you add the samples, you tell the machine what you want to do, so what kind of dilutions, what kind of parameters, and then you can walk away and the machine is picking up the sample, doing the dilutions, doing the inoculation, labeling, sorting. So at the end you have racks that you can put into your incubator and there is much less hands-on needed here. If you combine all this what I said, you still need to do the sample preparation, you still need to do the homogenization, but then you can really walk in a very efficient process with having a robot doing the dilution steps up to the reading or interpretation step, documentation and waste reduction. So if you follow this process, you see the 80% and even more efficiency increase in a lab by using a method that is fully validated. So you can use it according to the reference method and getting or gaining a lot of efficiency. So we did a lot here, but we still create a lot of data. A company is not only doing microbiology. You are doing environmental monitoring, you are doing allergen testing, you are doing maybe pathogen testing. So there are lots of data coming and all these things that we do are data points. What are you doing with the data today? A lot of people know the answer. If we use a smartphone, we are creating data, but we are also using it. Amazon is using data. Google is using data. They have a fantastic idea how to do that. So from all the results, from all the things we do, from all the documents we get and create, we need to move ahead and think about a way how can we use the data in an efficient way. And we as Neogen are working on a product, and that was the last one on the portfolio slide, called Neogen Analytics. So we are using the data we have and put them all into one system. The difficulty here is that all the machines we are using are talking a different language. And we need to have a kind of translator that translates the data into something the system can read. And here we are with the analytics part. So we are getting data from maybe environmental monitoring, ATP, microbial testing, pathogen testing, maybe allergen data. So you can feed all the data into a system that helps you to get an overview about the situation in your plant, the situation in your company. Even with multiple plants, you can have the data ready available. So how does it look like? If you know an ATP system, you walk around, you do your swabbing. You see you have pass, you have cautions, you have fails. Somebody needs to do something. Here you collect the data and so you shoot the data into a cloud. The cloud is collecting the data and pushing it into the Neogen Analytics system. And from there you get the information condensed in one system, and you can even make it visible. So if you look into the system, you can create a floor plan by uploading a PDF document of your company. And here you can see there's some machinery in the room, and you see the points where we do the testing, some green points, that's the points you don't need to think about. Pass results, everything is okay. Yellow points are cautious results. If you see red points, you need to do something. By knowing, oh, we have cleaning failures in one area, then suddenly you start to see some pathogen data coming up. Oh, we have listeria results, we have salmonella results in the same area. You know what to do. You need to check your cleaning process. So in the past, we collected all the data and somebody had to review it and make a conclusion. The system is helping here because it makes it visual and you can see where you have some points where you really need to take care. Going to the system, you can say, okay, show me what's going on. You see trending results. You see a reporting about specific test points. You can compare months, years, seasons. So seasonal effects can be shown. And you see if everything is under control or if there is something going on. One pathogen result will not drive you into a panic mode. Should not. But if you see more and if you see some increasing results, at the same time you see increasing total count results or increasing EB results or listeria results, you know something's going on. I need to react here. And looking at the data, you can have a very early warning and you can start to react. If everything is fine, you keep this level of reporting, but you can always go very deep into every result. You can drill down in the software and you can see what's going on, what happened here. You can see maybe cleaning methods, maybe cleaning methods need to be changed because it's not effective anymore. Maybe you use cleaning companies and you see there is a lot of, not a really controlled process, there are a lot of ups and downs, so training might be needed or maybe looking into another company. This is what the system is telling you. You can even set up an alarm. I'm not sure if I want that as a quality manager, but maybe it's important that you get a message and you know, oh, I need to call somebody to trigger something. If you work in a quality department, you may know that listening to you is not so easy. So if you want to show something to the management and you come to them and say, oh, let me explain, I need some support here. Not so easy. If you can show data, it's much more easy. We have one chart here, I don't have it on the slide, but it's called the management chart. It's showing also the whole situation with green fields. Green is great, nobody will react. Yellow, people start to think, okay, what's going on? They might start to ask questions. If management see red dots, they immediately react. What's going on? What do we need to do here? So having the data available, all the data, but be able to condense it from data to information and from information to reaction or action is something that is really crucial today. So we move forward with these things, helping companies to get the data into one system, to work with the data, to make their labs, their processes much more efficient, to really have time to work here on this level as well. So addressing manual processes by using automation, by using more efficient methods, improving time to information and freeing up the brain to use the information. That is important. Don't spend so much time on manually collecting and documenting data, because there's also a high likeliness of errors if people write down information and have to read it and have to report it. So we get it more and more automated, the data, so that we can use it as information and driving actions. So these are some examples, and I would be happy every company would do this today. But here are some examples coming from industry, translated into products, translated into processes that we use to help companies to make their work and their lab work much more efficient. So, thank you for listening. Do you have any questions? So, if not, thank you very much. If you have questions, please visit our booth. We will be there to answer your questions, or visit our website or our company whenever you need something. Thank you very much.